about to get round number 11, the second round of today underway. My name's Cora Georgiou, and joining me for this set is going to be Mike Fouché, a competitive Pokemon player who's willing to lend some of his knowledge over to our streams. Thank you so much for being here. You having a good time so far?
Yeah, it's been a great tournament. I appreciate the opportunity to join you guys and cast. Yeah, I'm excited. This looks like a good matchup between Rukan Shao and Ian Robb. It looks like we have a Vikavolt Tapu Bulu GX versus a Drampa Garbodor. Very similar to the list we just saw come second place in the Bremen Regionals just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, a lot of Drampa Garb running around. I think about 15% of the top 32 is playing Drampa Garb in some iteration. We have two Vikabulu in the top 32 as well. Rukan Shao, of course, being one of those players. And these guys are 8-2. So 8 wins over day one, or going with a 7-1. Or 7-2, excuse me, into date number 2. Either way, they are doing very well and positioning themselves very well to make that cut into top 8. Vikabulu, I don't think people were expecting too much from going into this tournament. It is the Tier 2 or Tier 3 deck that I've been talking to people. People say is overhyped. People say is better than, or is not as good as a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, I have kind of famously amongst the competitive players, a lot of the top players really don't like this deck and cite it as the worst competitive deck in the format. But we did see 2 make day 2. This list is actually pretty interesting. It has some really cool cards in it that actually might catapult it from that Tier 2, Tier 3 status into competitively viable. We have a Mew, some tech cards such as Mew from Fates Collide. We have a Clefairy, which has Metronome, lets it copy defending Pokemon's attack. And we have a Tapu Koko GX in this list as well. So besides the normal Vikavolt Tapu Bulu, we also have 3 interesting tech cards. So it'll be interesting how these play out in this matchup. I don't know how useful those cards will be against Drampa Garb. Mew and Clefairy are particularly useful against Gardevoir and Volcanion, but we'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
There's also, I'm eyeing that single copy of Brock's Grit. You shuffle 6 Pokemon or Basic Energy from discard into your deck. This deck does go through Basic Energy very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
The goal of it, it's a very linear strategy, right? You want to start that Tapu Bulu, get a Grubbin down, Rare Candy to the Vikavolt, and start loading energy up onto Tapu Bulu when Nature's Judgment deals 120 base, but you can discard 2 energy from your Bulu to add an extra 60 damage. With a Choice Band, now you're one-hit knocking out Glycopods, you're one-hit knocking out Volcanions. It is a very powerful deck. Bulu is a very powerful attacker, but you are discarding energy very quickly from your deck. So the Brock's Grit, to be able to shuffle that energy back in, to be able to use Vikavolt's ability to get more energy out onto your Bulu, seems like it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully that recovery, especially against the Garbodor deck, could be very helpful. So we see these 2 guys starting. Looks like Ian went first. Both already have kind of their ideal 2 basic Pokemon out in the field. Ian attaching a Rainbow Energy to Drampa. I think it's interesting that he's playing Rainbow Energy. He also plays Potown to help activate the Berserk attack, but Rainbow gives him an extra out to activating that. So we see Ian play an N turn 1. Maybe not the most ideal supporter on turn 1, but not the worst either. So we'll see what Ian ends up doing.
Do you like the Potown as well as the Rainbow Energy, or do you think it's a bit much when it comes to targeted damage onto your own Pokemon just to activate that Berserk? I mean, you're only playing 2 Drampa, right? Drampa is a huge attacker in this, but you have a lot of other attack options as well.
Yeah, so back when Drampa Garb first started being a deck, back when Guardians Rising first came out, we saw Team Magma base instead of Potown to help activate. And a lot of players debated playing Rainbow Energy as well. Some did, some didn't. The biggest argument against Rainbow Energy back then was that in the mirror match, Drampa's Righteous Edge attack discards a special energy, so playing Rainbow Energy could actually be a liability. But now Drampa is not the most popular deck. There's a lot of other decks. As we said, Drampa was about 15% of day 2, which, though high, is not the 75% that it was back in Seattle. So playing the Rainbow Energy, I think, is a little bit safer than it used to be.
Okay. I like to see how decks tend to evolve with the new set releases. Obviously, sets come out every, 3 months?
Yep, about that.
So it's very interesting to see how these same decks evolve in a very quick fashion. But like we were saying, Vikavolt is a very linear strategy. This deck doesn't have secondary attackers, really. If the Bulu is knocked out, you can use Vikavolt for that quick 150 in some cases. It's not bad, and he does have some spread available with the... he's playing the Tapu Koko GX. It's not the promo.
Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that. So this Vikavolt list is actually omitting the Tapu Koko promo.
Yeah, so no flying flip active, but you do have that additional GX Pokemon. That's very interesting.
Yeah, we see most Vikavolts playing the Tapu Koko for a number of reasons. Gardevoir GX is a tough matchup because you can't hit 230, but with Tapu Koko promo, lets you fly and flip, puts 20s on the Ralts.
Then the Nature's Judgment plus the Choice Band and the damage, you get there.
So we do see the Tech Clefairy come down, and Ian has to read the card. As you and Ray were talking about last round, it's always a win.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's always a win when your opponent has to read a card. Clefairy is interesting. It has 40 HP, so not too much HP, but as I said before, 3 colorless. Metronome lets you copy one of the defending Pokemon's attacks. So not sure how useful. Could copy Trashalanche in this matchup, but you're copying it for 3 energy. Could copy Berserk if one of your guys gets hit, and then you can Choice Band it and do 180 with a non-EX. So that could be interesting. But Rukan has a really nice setup here, right? He Bridgeted turn 1, has 3 Grubbins, so even if the active Grubbin goes down, he still has 2 potential Vikavolts. He's just really hoping that he doesn't get Garbotoxined.
Oh, that would be absolutely horrible if that Garbotoxin Garb does come out and Ian has consistent tools to be able to attach to it through Field Blowers from Rukan. Then Vikavolt's ability will be shut down. There will be no searching for energies from the deck. But in my experience, having a single copy of Vikavolt is okay. You really want to hit that 2 Vikavolt sweet spot to be able to set up 4 energy per turn. 3 seems like a bit of overkill.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. I think he's just getting the extra Grubbin and anticipating the knockout from the Drampa. And we do see the Garbotoxin come down with a Potown, so the Potown will activate Drampa's Berserk attack, allowing it to do 150 damage. It would have knocked out the Grubbin, even with the straight 80, but this allows the Drampa to potentially one-shot a Tapu Bulu in future turns. And we do see the Garbotoxin with the Choice Band, which is not the ideal tool, but also not the worst. It looks like Ian is playing 4 Choice Band and 4 Floatstone, so he will still have access to plenty of tools throughout the game.
Rukan does have 3 Field Blowers in his deck as well. Yeah, you would like to get that Floatstone down in the Garbotoxin Garb, have the Choice Band on the Drampa so that Berserk does 180 instead of 150, and you get the straight knockout onto the Tapu Bulu.
So we see Ian Robb actually opting not to Berserk and knock out the Grubbin, and instead use Big Wheel GX, but Rukan has the end to respond, so brings his hand down from 10 back to a normal 6. And but that's an interesting play. I guess he was anticipating a Field Blower Candy Vikavolt knockout, or maybe he didn't have a supporter in his hand. But not going aggressive with the Drampa, I don't know if I agree with that. This matchup seems like one where you want to lock him with Garb and just start going aggro and knocking stuff out. But I haven't played this matchup too much, so we'll see how this pans out.
I mean, you've already got Vikavolt's ability locked down with your Garbotoxin Garb. So it also would make sense to me to start attacking, being very aggressive, and making it so that Rukan doesn't have the ability to safely set up on his benched Bulus. But Ian disagrees, would rather just go for card quantity over that initial knockout onto the Grubbin, especially knowing that there's 2 additional Grubbin on the bench, so this Grubbin in the attacking spot is kind of irrelevant right now. He's going to get this prize no matter what. He just chooses to forego it for a turn and instead use Big Wheel, which is the GX attack that you're usually going to make use of in this deck.
So we see him Ultra Ball away a Guzma, which is interesting. I kind of wonder if Ian was hoping for a Guzma on this Tapu Bulu with a Choice Band to try and knock it out. Maybe that's why he was going for Big Wheel.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he doesn't have Guzma Floatstone Choice Band, this is kind of an awkward turn for Ian. And he is going to play an N instead. and get another Drampa out. He's going to try and start setting up his next Drampa, anticipating this Tapu Bulu coming out and knocking out his Drampa at some point. This matchup will also hinge a lot on how many items that Rukan has to play, as Trashalanche later in the game can start one-shotting Tapu Bulus.
It's a pretty item-heavy Vikavolt build. Of course, you're playing Rare Candy. Every deck's playing 4 Ultra Ball. You have an additional Heavy Ball, Energy Recyclers, 3 Field Blowers, Choice Bands. There's a lot of items that Rukan will want to make use of that will naturally just power up that Trashalanche Garb.
Ooh, we see the second Garbotoxin coming out. That's kind of interesting. I guess he's thinking that maybe Rukan will Guzma up the Garbodor and knock it out.
You want to have that second one set up to really nullify any chance of Vikavolt coming down.
Yeah. I would be more scared of the Field Blower than a Guzma, and maybe save the Trubbish for another Trashalanche potentially. But again, I haven't played this matchup very much from either side.
I mean, it is possible that Ian also hasn't played it very much.
Right.
We haven't seen much Vikavolt across the field. There are 2 in the top 32 cut, but that is unusual. It is a low Tier 2, Tier 3 deck that I'm sure Ian is very familiar with how it operates, but maybe I'm sure he's been used to playing against Gardevoir, Golisopod, Volcanion, the field that we've been seeing a lot of.
Yeah. So to note, Ian played an N on his turn, and took the knockout, and then Rukan passed. He did not. He attached to a Bulu and passed. So he does not have much right now. So this gives an opening for Ian to maybe just start. Oh, but he just top decked Sycamore. Okay, so it looks like he has a lot of items in his hand potentially. So even if he's Sycamores, he's powering up the Trashalanche. But at this point, I don't think you really have another option, right? You just kind of got to go for it.
Yep. Nature's Judgment with the additional 60 damage will get the knockout on the Drampa. But Ian does have that second one on the bench, ready and waiting, ready to go. If he finds the Choice Band, then he will have the knockout on the Bulu with the powered-up Berserk.
Yeah. So you see Vikavolt come out for the first time. Still can't use Strong Charge because of Garbotoxin in play, but I think Rukan's going to try and set up a turn where he takes the knockout on Drampa. He gets knocked out by Drampa, and then hopefully has Field Blower the following turn to take the knockout on this new Drampa, and then potentially, then he would be in a good spot, actually. Yeah,
you need to save that Field Blower for the turn that you want to Strong Charge, because you're likely only going to get one turn unless you have multiple copies of Field Blower, especially since there are 2 Garbotoxin Garb on Ian's bench. So in one turn, you need to Field Blower away the Floatstone and the Choice Band, bring out that Bulu, attach a Grass Energy, Strong Charge for a Grass and an Electric from the deck, and then get the knockout on the second Drampa. And at that point, if Rukan doesn't have enough items in his discard for the Trashalanche Garb to get the knockout on that second Bulu, Rukan will actually be in a decent spot. But there's a lot that he needs to do to get to that point. It is very much still winnable, however. Field Blower going to come down this turn. Get rid of both of those tools. Strong Charge, taking a Grass and an Electric out of the deck.
And going to start powering up this second Tapu Bulu. So now Rukan has a nice response to Ian's potential knockout next turn. So both players kind of at interesting spots. They're both going to be at 4 prizes, and we'll see who can win this prize trade. Potown, not super relevant, I don't think, in this matchup. Just mostly for activating Berserk, but Vikavolt doesn't care too much about taking damage as it evolves. Not as much as a deck like Gardevoir does.
Yeah, exactly. Things are looking fairly even to me. There's that Tapu Koko GX. When it comes down onto the board, you can transfer any lightning energy from your Pokemon on the board onto that Tapu Koko. Brings it into the active spot.
Super interesting. So we're going to see Tapu Koko's GX attack. I forget the name of the GX attack, but it does 50 damage times the amount of energy on your opponent's side of the field. So right now, it is doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 5, so 300 damage, which is more than enough
Tapu Thunder GX.
Tapu Thunder GX.
And then it has Sky High Claws for just 2 lightning and a colorless, which deals 130. This actually makes a lot of sense in this deck because you are pulling the lightning energy from the Vikavolt, and if your Bulu don't line up well against the opponent for some reason, you can transfer the lightning energy to the Koko, and against a deck that wants to front load a lot of energy very quickly, get that guaranteed knockout. So against Volcanion, against Gardevoir, against Ho-Oh with Kiawe, this Tapu Koko seems like it hits very well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting card, and we're going to see it take a knockout and save the Tapu Bulu for next turn with the Choice Band as well. So now Ian has to have a Field Blower to get rid of the Choice Band as well, because otherwise his next Drampa is a guaranteed knockout for Rukan, assuming he has an energy, which we already saw. Actually, we just saw them debating. Rukan tried to attach an energy, but Ian said he had already attached for turn, so they agreed that he could not, but that means that Rukan has the energy for next turn.
Do small mistakes like that happen a lot? Do players get sort of carried away in all of the actions that they're making and, forget that they've played a supporter, forget that they've attached an energy early on?
Sure, yeah, all the time, especially on stream matches. We see a lot of little mistakes on stream as players, they're a little bit more nervous. There's
a lot of pressure.
There's hundreds, potentially thousands of people watching them.
So much money on the line, so many points.
Yeah, the further you get into a tournament, the more the anxiety of the tournament, the nerves start getting to you. And I'm not sure what happened. He did not take a knockout with the Tapu Thunder. Does it take 3 energy or 2 energy?
It's 2 lightning and a colorless.
Oh.
So it is...
Okay, so that
3. So he did not actually, because he had attached early on, couldn't attach to the Tapu Koko. Maybe that was where the mistake came in. If that is the case, that's a big miss.
That's a big misplay. Yes, absolutely. So we will see the Tapu Bulu take a knockout potentially on the Drampa. He does need to find another Choice Band because it just got his original Choice Band just got Field Blowered.
Brock's Grit going to shuffle 6 in any combination of Pokemon and Basic Energy into the deck, so Rukan can strong charge them back out. But there is a float stone on the Garb on the bench, so strong charge is not active.
Oh, actually, Tapu Bulu doesn't need a Choice Band. It can just do 180.
Yeah, it can just Nature's Judgment for 180.
So it'll take the knockout on Drampa, and now he has to hope that Ian does not have a Choice Band to put on his Drampa, because if he does, Ian will take his last 2 prizes with Berserk. Ian has a big hand, but he didn't play it immediately, so that's telling me that he does not have the Choice Band in his hand. We'll see if he has a Sycamore or some way to get it.
I can't help but wonder how differently this game could end up had Rukan not attached early. And had that extra attach onto the Tapu Koko to get the knockout with Tapu Thunder, because then this Bulu would have knocked out, presumably, that second Drampa on deck, which would have left only the Espeon and the Garbodor to knock out the additional Bulu that Rukan has. And even still, then you have Vikavolt, which you can attach energy to and get a 150 damage quick knockout. Yeah, that's something that you really, coming from other card games, you see that anxiety of being on stream, of being in such an important position in day 2 with an 8-2 record, and really wanting to perform well. You see players sort of let that get to them. It shakes their mentality. They lose a lot of their focus, and they do make small misplays, and in some cases large misplays, that they would never make normally.
Yeah, and you also got to remember these players are coming off playing 9 rounds yesterday, upwards of 20 to 25 games.
They've got to be exhausted.
Yeah, they're already exhausted. We were playing until 11 o'clock last night, and then they had to be up again at 8 o'clock this morning here. And looks like Rukan is scooping up this game. He did not get the Field Blower to use Tapu Bulu's GX attack, Tapu Wilderness, to heal the damage off. So we will see go to game 2. But yeah, these players... Oh. Ian just kind of gave the camera a look. He shrugged. He was like, we got there.
Got him. Game 1.
That's always funny to see. Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully we don't see such a game-breaking misplay this next game. But Rukan's got to be feeling a little shaken up now.
Yeah, I mean, he's already playing a deck that I think is at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And it looks like he had a serious chance to win that matchup.
Yeah.
He had a chance to come from behind in what is maybe 60-40. It's not horrible, certainly not unwinnable, especially with Tapu Bulu having that straight Nature's Judgment boosted damage knockout onto the Drampa. But the Garbotoxin Garb just shuts down Strong Charge from Vikavolt and makes it almost impossible when you have multiple Garbs on the bench to be able to get the energy necessary to get those knockouts with the Tapu Bulu. So he had the field blowers to get those strong charges, to get those turns of setup onto the Bulu, to get the knockouts, the Coco to move the energy around and use the GX attack, and he blundered.
Yeah. So we'll see. Rukan does get to go first this game. He went second last game, which is, for evolution decks especially, going first is huge. You get hopefully get the bridge at turn 1. You get to evolve turn 2, which means that if he gets the Candy Vikavolt going second, there is a 0% chance that Ian can have Garbotoxin out before he's able to strong charge. And let's say Ian starts Drampa and Rukan gets turn 2 Tapu Bulu with Vikavolt. The game could just be over at that point.
Bulu can just hit every single turn before Garb is able to be set up. And say Ian doesn't have the Garbotoxin Garb, if he has Trash Lanch, or if he doesn't have a tool to set up, it is very possible that Rukan can start very quickly and Ian can whiff. That is one of the big strengths of Vikabulu, is the fast damage.
Yeah. And Rukan's list does play 3 Skyla, so it really does have a lot of outs to getting this really early Vikavolt. All right, so we see kind of the opening that we just talked about, Drampa versus Tapu Bulu. So we'll see if he can get a Grubbin down and potentially get this turn 2 Vikavolt knockout on the Drampa.
And Bulu does have the primary attack, Horn Attack for 30, which if you don't have the energy or the Vikavolt set up to be able to use Nature's Judgment and discard the energy for the boosted damage, you can Horn Attack while you're setting up the Bulu, soften up the Drampa, and then just Nature's Judgment for 120 after 2 Horn Attacks and get that knockout that way. Maybe preserve the energy if Garbotoxin Garb comes down and you can't use Strong Charge, and then after that take the knockout with the boosted Nature's Judgment and get a 2 knockout on that same Bulu for the 3 energy.
And a choice band at on either of those attacks, Horn Attack or Nature's Judgment, makes it just a 2-hit knockout as well. So we do see the bridge at turn 1, 2 Grubbin. He does opt to go for the Mew. I think this is interesting because Mew can be really good because it can one-shot a Garbodor or a Trash Lance since it's a psychic Pokemon, hits for weakness. However, if Garbotoxin is out, Mew is absolutely useless.
Can't use the ability.
So we'll see how useful the Mew ends up being for Rukan. But, I mean, this is the ideal start, assuming that he has a Vikavolt next turn. I'm not sure.
Taking Candy Vikavolt.
Yeah.
Strong Charge for 2 energy. Bulu will be hitting full next turn.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what. It seems like Rukan's discussing with the judge something as he shuffles.
Okay.
Not too sure if there's an issue going on, but hopefully it's all good.
First game was rather quick. They've still got a half hour on the clock to be able to, if Rukan takes this game, get through 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Both these decks are
rather fast.
Rather fast at what they're doing. Ooh, wow. Ian has to end Rukan turn 1, which is not what you want to do against Vikavolt because I think Rukan only had 3-4 cards in his hand.
Yeah.
Giving him a fresh 6 is really not what you want to be doing against evolution decks because now they have so much more of a chance to set up.
It speaks to me that Ian had a really poor hand. Ending before you even attach to the Drampa, whether it be an energy or even just a choice band or a tool, is showing that he must have had a lot of nothing to do.
Yeah, no basics, no energy, no tools, like 0 playable cards is pretty rare.
It's unusual
for a deck like this.
Drampa, you're going to need the DCE and likely the Rainbow and the choice band then to get the knockout onto the Bulu. The Psychic will do the job as well. I believe 5 Psychic energy in this list. Yeah, and then the 4 DCE and 3 Rainbow energy.
Yep. So we see Big Wheel turn 1. We don't see the N from Rukan, but we do see Skyla potentially coming out. The judge is telling Rukan to wait until Ian shuffles up and draws his cards from Big Wheel, but he's about to play a Skyla, which tells me that he's going to get a Vikavolt this turn.
He's going to grab the rare candy if he's got Vikavolt in hand, or the Ultra Ball to grab the Vikavolt. Then he will have the evolution line. And he can strong charge right away, get the 2 energy, start attacking with the Bulu. even knock out the Drampa this turn if he wants it. That's a big swing.
Yeah, and with no Drampa on the bench, Ian is going to be forced to promote a Trubbish and
try to set up another Drampa. Not enough items nearly in the discard for Trashalanche to take a knockout on the Bulu.
So this is the exact start that Rukan wanted to see in order to try and win this game quickly and then be able to have enough time to go to a game 3. Now, I mean, Ian still can always Garbotoxin and N when Rukan goes to 1-2 prizes and potentially make a comeback. Ian's certainly going to play this game out, I would think.
He's got plenty of time to do it.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time. He's got 10 cards in his hand now, so he'll hopefully have options. And interestingly, Ian also plays 1 Hala, so now that he's used Big Wheel GX, Hala is drawing him 7 cards whenever he plays it.
Normally it's shuffle and draw 5 if you haven't used the GX, so similar to Shauna. But if you've used the GX, shuffle and draw 7. So then just better than a Sycamore if you don't want to sacrifice the cards in hand. But in the late game, if you have a bunch of useless cards and you want to draw, you need to draw energies from deck, for instance, then Sycamore will still be better.
All right, so we see the knockout on the Drampa. Rukan going to 4 prizes. And we'll see what Ian can do to respond. He starts with an Ultra Ball, getting rid of Potowns, as we discussed, not super relevant. He gets an Espeon EX. So we didn't see this card during the first game.
No, I think we saw the GX.
Right. So Espeon here is potentially useful, getting rid of the Vikavolt. And since Rukan evolved via Rare Candy, well, unless he has another Rare Candy, will not be able to get a Vikavolt out next turn. So he is going for the Espeon and an N. And hopefully, Ian's really hoping for Garbotoxin here as well. If he gets Garbotoxin here, Rukan could actually be in a tough spot.
This could be quite a comeback from Ian with that second Drampa on deck. And actually, to be able to Miraculous Shine away the Vikavolt if he doesn't get the Garb is also another way to shut down that strong charge. So that's potentially could get him out of a tough spot.
Yeah, we'll see. The Garbotoxin would be really, really big here. And it does look like he drew the Garbotoxin. He's going to Lele first to set himself up for the next turn. And getting a Sycamore wisely, he doesn't want to get N probably because he's really hoping that Rukan just has a dead hand. Rukan is playing for Professor Sycamore, though, so we do see a lot of these Vikavolt lists playing less supporters, less draw supporters than other decks do because they want to run the heavy Skyla in order to guarantee the turn 2 Vikavolt. But Rukan is playing for Sycamore, 3N, so he has more draw supporters than the typical Vikavolt deck.
Yeah, he's also running then 3 Skyla, only 11 total energy, 7 Grass, 4 Lightning. I feel like 7 Grass, 5 Lightning is standard, so maybe making one cut of the Lightning and adding an additional Skyla or the Brock's Grit as well.
Yeah, the Brock's Grit. And he has more energy recovery, but less actual energy. So we see Heavy Ball for the Charger Bug. This could actually put him in a weird spot if he doesn't have the candy because if he evolves via Charger Bug, Ian can actually just keep Miraculous Shining and potentially just lock him out of Vikavolt until he draws a rare candy. He can put a little bit of pressure on with Tapu Bulu, but Horn Attack it's going to take a long time for Horn Attack to knock out this Espeon EX.
Yeah, it would have to be Candy Vikavolt and then the equip onto the Bulu for the 180 Nature's Judgment to knock out the Espeon in the same turn so you can ensure that your Vikavolt actually stays. But to do that also you need to Field Blower the tool off of the Garb in the same turn. A lot going on there.
So we see a Guzma for Trubbish. I'm not sure if Rukan has forgotten that Garbotoxin shuts off his Mew because he attached for it.
Can't use the ability.
He did not forget. Okay, he did not forget about that. That's good. So he's kind of just stalling a little bit, hoping that Ian cannot Miraculous Shine again next turn. So, but he does have the Float Stone, and we'll see if Ian does go for this line of play where he kind of tries to Miraculous Shine lock. This is actually kind of interesting. I've talked with some older players. This strategy with Potown and Espeon is reminiscent of a very old deck called Rock Lock that had a similar strategy that devolved Pokemon and
yeah, Pablo was saying something similar.
It's very interesting to see 10 years later this strategy kind of re-emerging. And we will see another miraculous shine this turn. See what Rukan can do.
He's having a very difficult time setting up, and though Rukan plays 3 field blowers, which should give him turns to set up that Vikavolt off of the Garbotoxin the turn that it is inactive. 4 choice bands, 4 float stones for Ian is still going to have that Garb active consistently, regularly, nearly every turn that it is on deck.
So the 70 HP on Grubbin is pretty relevant here. The Grubbin survives on the bench, but actually if the bench Grubbin evolves to a Charger Bug, it dies, right? Charger Bug has 90 HP.
You take the 30 from the Poe, and then you can't actually evolve it.
So Ian's just kind of attaching Miraculous Shine. So he is going to retreat here, send up Drampa, take a knockout, and just kind of start setting up a secondary attacker in Tapu Lele.
Looks to me like Ian is in full control here. Rukan had, okay, there's the field blower. Does he have Candy Vikavolt as well?
That's it.
Nope, that's it.
Rukan is scooping up the game. So he just got N Garbotoxin. Even after that phenomenal start, sometimes you can't do anything if you get N Garbotoxin with Vikavolt.
Man, it seems like the attack damage from the Bulu should line up so well into the Drampa from the Drampa Garb, but Garbotoxin's so powerful, shutting off Strong Charge, shutting off that Mew Tech for Rukan, and just not allowing him to set up whatsoever. So this, I think, is actually one of the faster rounds that we've seen on stream. Still 21 minutes on the clock. Ian decisively taking this 2-0. So Ian going to go to a 9-2 record. Rukan going to be 8-3. Ian setting himself up in a great spot to make that cut to the top 8. Drampa Garb, one of the most popular decks right now. Not as popular, like you were saying, as it was at Bremen, where it was 75% of the final cut. But here, still looking very, very strong. Yeah,
and it's the most consistent deck in the format. Though Gardevoir is probably the most powerful deck, Drampa Garb, it just does what it needs to do all the time.
Plus, it has that soft lock with Garbotoxin. Trashlanche punishes for additional items used, and Drampa's Berserk is just big damage for not a lot of development. So really very well played by Ian. He's going to go to that 9-2 record. But that's going to be it for round number 10. Thank you so much for joining us on the stream. Hopefully we get to see you maybe a little bit later today as well. I hope so. That's going to be it, though. We will be back for the next round very soon, guys. Don't go anywhere. 3 more rounds coming up today.